Coming to you live from deep within a wasteland of radioactive, disingenuous, bad faith arguments. We are the survivors of the alt-right kick-apocalypse. The few, the brave, the bitchy, once more wading into battle against the froggy lobster zombie hordes with Did Ethan Destroy Pearl? Let's take a look at her debate game. Fundzerker number 162.
72.
72.
How did you screw that up, Alison? Jesus. 172. He repeated it 3 times before we started the show. You always, I know, you always, if you don't mispronounce Kekpocalypse, you
Did
always
I
got...
I
No,
sure
you didn't. You didn't mispronounce Kekpocalypse.
Like,
so that meant that you had to...
Apocalypse is that it has a k and a p right next to each other, which is...
But that just meant that you had to mess up something else. I'm sorry, it's like the occasional time when I say Susan B. Anthony gave a luncheon speech in 1949, you know, and then I'm like, oh, fuck, 1849.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful year. Proving that feminism was sort of crap from the beginning, or at least it was about resentment from the beginning.
Or at least women, feminists like Susan B. Anthony, knew that women had huge amounts of power. Because that speech at that luncheon was all about how if women just collectively got together and said they weren't going to associate with any man who drinks, men would stop drinking. It was temperance luncheon.
Yeah.
And, well, you know, like, she was pretty sure of that, and I think that's probably the case. It's just a real shame that women like drinking, too, so.
She forgot that part.
Yeah.
I'm going to agree with you.
Well, Alison, you get a fail sound for messing up the number. This is 172.
Okay, well, hopefully we will not fail to get the funds that we need for this month. It is going a bit slowly. I have noticed that people struggling to support because of the PayPal contribute or complete purchase button is apparently site-wide. Is they're not just targeting, hopefully they're not just targeting the wrong think people, but they're having an issue with it. They apparently haven't fixed it, and I can see you guys in the back room sort of trying desperately to put it through PayPal and it taking multiple efforts. So this fundraiser seems to be going very slowly, and that terrifies me, as it always does, but, you know.
You live in a state of existential terror, Alison. It's...
Yes, because I see.
Yeah.
I think it's because I see further than what other people do.
Oh, yeah, no, it's like, what I've had to do to, like, alleviate my own terror is stop caring about my children.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've talked myself out of... Now I only care about my dogs, because Borat's probably only got about another 6 years in him. Kevin's probably about the same. And then they're going to be gone, and I won't have to worry about them anymore.
Yeah.
See? And
well,
they'll probably die of natural causes long before the apocalypse hits. So.
Okay, but the other thing is that I can see that the solution is not difficult, but it is.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not like
people to actually
logistically, logically. Yes, systemically.
We have a utopia. We can eat to a state of absolute obesity. We got warmth and water and shelter, and we got the world's knowledge at our fingertips.
Yeah, lights that turn on when you flip a switch. No tinder and flint needed. You know, it's great.
All you gotta do is learn to enjoy each other's company.
Yeah.
That's it. and just stop embracing these misanthropic narratives of fucking men oppressing women. But no, we can't do that. We can't freaking do that. That simple thing, and we would be fine, probably for another 100, 200 years. Until, I don't know. But I guess everybody doesn't want to survive. Yeah, the asteroid hits or something. But I guess everybody doesn't want to survive because then we would be destroying Mother Nature, I guess, or something. But not like Mother Nature didn't try to destroy us the entire time we've been trying to live on this planet.
I don't understand these people, these like environmentalists who are like, we need to preserve nature. Yeah, okay, I get it. You know, there's a live and let live thing going on there, right? Okay, so you don't go out of your way to shit on nature, and you respect nature, right? You respect it because it's everything, right? But at the exact same time, they're like, well, for the last 2 million years or so, all of the green plants on the planet have been in a state of quasi-starvation. And we need to keep that up. We need to keep starving the plants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In fact, we need to starve them more. And I'm just like, wait, I thought you guys liked nature.
Yeah.
Right? Like when I was a kid in the 70s, the average CO2 in the atmosphere was like 360 maybe parts per million, right? We fertilized our lawn at least twice a season, and we cut it every 2 weeks because that's all it needed was every 2 weeks, and we watered it constantly, right? Now I can't get my fucking lawn to stop growing. I'm just like, stop growing. I could cut it 3 times a week and it still would look overgrown, right? And I've never watered it. And I've never put fertilizer on it other than like dog poo and dog pee, right? Because the dogs fertilize the lawn. But it's like, okay, so we have a situation where we're at 420 parts per million is where we're at. 360 or 370 was where we were at in the 70s, right? 180 is when all photosynthesis stops, and 150 is where everything dies. Okay? What was the CO2 concentration of the atmosphere where most of the modern plants that we need, the environment in which they evolved? Somewhere between 800 and 1200 parts per million. That's what makes them thrive, is 800 to 1200. That's why they pump 800 to 1200 parts per million into greenhouses to maximize plant growth, plant health, plant yields, and minimize water usage.
Okay, so what you're saying, Karen, is that the human race is Gaia, if you believe in the Gaia hypothesis, deciding that she wants a significant increase in carbon dioxide to improve the growth cycle of the plants.
Well, I just think like the plants are.
I'm just saying. Okay, maybe.
I don't think there's any kind of Gaia out there. I just think the plants are like really happy right now, and they're getting happier. And the only people who are
environmentalists hate plants. They want them to be unhappy and starving.
The only people who are unhappy are, these people who are like, well, the sea levels are going to rise and all the polar bears are going to die and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, when have we ever not had, major extinction events? The dinosaurs all died out. The megafauna all died out. There's all, like, if you only care about the earth and the fact that some form of life continues to exist, then just quit fucking with things.
All right, so
do what you're gonna do.
This is a very long digression into
a little bit, yeah.
A little off topic, but
there is absolutely no apology for it, but okay, I'm going to do my spiel. All right, if you want these shows to keep coming, if you want this particular message to keep getting out there, despite your opinions about the environment, please go to feedthebadger.com/support and help us out. I'm getting a little bit nervous, and I really appreciate everybody who helps us out, but we do have a ways to go. So please, please, please go to feedthebadger.com/support. $5, $10, everything helps. Please go there, put something in, take the time to just enter the URL into your URL space, feedthebadger.com/support. And if you are able, then help us out, because we aren't able to continue this content unless you take it upon yourselves to step up and help us out to make sure that we can continue, essentially. And this is very unique because I don't think that many people are willing to say, no, actually, we have to care about men. Nope, that means we actually have to identify that men have a value all of their own. Not everything is encompassed within women. And recognize the unique contributions that men make. And there's not a lot of that out there. Unfortunately, the traditionalists seem to be dead set on, they think that if you recognize the unique contributions that men make, they'll suddenly stop making them because they'll be just like, I got all these abilities, but I'm not going to use them. Because I've got my flattery now, and then that's it. Well, in my opinion, that's not what I've seen. And then feminists think that if you recognize any unique contribution that men give to society, you are excluding women from it, which in a way you are. Because in order to say that this is positive about men, this is positive about masculinity, you have to acknowledge that women don't do it as much, or don't do it as often, or don't do it as well. And this is something that feminists will not do. Even though, ironically, if you can frame it negatively, they'll accept that. For example...
raping, beatings, murdering, war.
Yeah, that's something that they'll accept men do more of, or alternatively, they'll define them by the fact that men are more often arrested for these things.
Yeah.
But the point is that they won't allow a positive to masculinity, because that means, by definition, you're excluding women from it. Even if you say that women do other things that are good. And even if the positive is an obvious plus to a negative that they say men have, for example, men pursue meritocracies rather than giving people what they need based on their apparent vulnerabilities or needs or victimhood. So men want people to earn what they get. And you could say that is because men are callous and don't care about the needs of others. And feminists will be like, yeah. But when you say a meritocracy is rather critical to the functioning of a society, then they're like, no. So men can be callous, but they can't be meritocratic.
Yeah.
It's infuriating. So they will acknowledge difference as long as it's negative, but they won't even acknowledge the obvious positives of the negatives that they attribute to men.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's one thing we do unequivocally and unrepentantly. Men have their own purpose. They have their own mind, their own otherness, shall we say, their own perspective, and their own value. And I will never stop saying that. The only thing that will happen if you don't support us is I won't be able to say it as loudly or as often or as consistently. So if you want to make sure that message doesn't die in the noise of the traditionalists saying, "Oh, we can't flatter men; they'll just go and be monsters," or feminists saying, "We can't flatter men because that means we're excluding women." If you don't want that message to die in that noise, then you have got to go to feedthebadger.com/support and help us out to make sure we can continue to say this in the way that we do. All right. I will do some more arm twisting at the hour.
All right.
We don't have any time left, guys, so it's now or never. And I'm sorry about PayPal. I know they've sort of shit the bed, but you gotta try harder this month is all I can say.
Well, couldn't they just send like a bunch of super chows if they wanted to send an amount and just do it that way? Or would it just not reflect in the
well, I'd have to transfer over It's a little more complicated, and I don't think it adds anything because the problem is PayPal.
All right.
PayPal's on the PayPal and PayPal's on the fundraiser.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay. Well,
let's do this.
let me give you guys a little bit of the setup. So, first of all, welcome Jojo. If you guys see, I have Jojo on cam. He's laying in his bed. He is awake. He's not dead. He's just tired. We are going to be responding to more of the debate between Ethan Klein and Pearl Davis, I think her name is, or JustPearlyThings. Where we left off is they were discussing the draft, and well, let's just pick up from where we left off. I did get a super chat from an anonymous person for $5, and they say, I would pay so much to watch Karen destroy Ethan in a debate. TYT knows that Karen is too much of a machine, so they'll never let it happen. All right, thank you for the super chow. Yeah, I mean, I think that part of it is that they're not aware of us, but I think that most of it is that like they'd rather have people on that, you know, they can like they would rather have people with much larger platforms because they can leech more subscribers. Because at the end of the day, they are all just trying to, like, you know, the people who debate, they're just trying to grow their channels. They're not really concerned about the actual issues, right? So it's basically just hollow. But anyway,
Well, they also want people that they can set up and take down, right?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because it's good for them, right? They get to clip things out and share the clips, and people are like, oh my god, that Ethan is so smart. I'm going to subscribe to his channel.
No, but no, the Young Turks will never have me on ever again. They didn't even say my name after I went on that one time and made Jenk lose his mind.
Yeah, that's like, well, that's the thing. Their goal is to try to get you to lose your mind. Oh, about Eric July. That's my mistake. We are agreed to do a show, but it's next Friday, not this Friday. That's my mistake. I spoke to the person that coordinates interviews for him, or like appointments or whatever, and I'm the one that screwed that up. So sorry, guys. I thought it was today. I thought I was doing double duty, but no. My official scheduled time is next Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern time, so don't miss it. Eric July is coming on. All right, but anyway, so let's get into this. All right.
Okay, so you're saying women should also have to sign up for selective service when they turn 18, like men.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm saying if you're going to be equal, make it equal.
Okay.
And for me, I don't want to do that. No, thank you. Keep me out of that.
Okay, so I understand that's your preference, but I'm just trying to understand like the policy. That in your red pill, we're doing the red pill. We're seeing the world as it is.
No, I wouldn't assign that belief to like red pill. That's not really like a red pill belief. That's just mine.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make a point about. So do you think?
All right, I'm just pausing it there.
What did you make?
Well, it isn't like with red pill. If you're looking at the red pill, and you know
the manosphere broadly.
Yeah, well, the red pillars in the manosphere. Yeah, they don't want women to be signed up for selective service because
they would get men killed and themselves.
Yes, and I wouldn't mind, you know, like, and I've said this before to like a bunch of people, right? Why not? Why not sign them up for selective service? That doesn't mean that you're putting Private Benjamin into a foxhole on the front lines, but you know, she could be changing tires on base. She could be doing logistical work. She could do data processing. She could be flying drones, right? Like this is the argument that, we can't put our daughters in danger is no longer an argument, because behind every single frontline soldier, behind every single pilot of a fighter jet, right? There's 16 support people who stay on the ground on base, right? And they're just fixing the plane and fueling it up and maintaining it and doing the air traffic control and all of that stuff, right? Sometimes from thousands of miles away, right? From any kind of hot theater of war, right? So the argument that we can't endanger our daughters. Oh, you're arguing that we should put women in foxholes. No. That doesn't mean, like, the entire argument boils down to how dare we inconvenience women
Sure.
during a time of war, right? Like, you could literally just say, if there's a draft, women can be drafted to do mandatory war work.
Yeah, I don't think that works either, though, because men are then effectively, and I get why, that's a proposal, but men are literally at more risk than women, even if we draft women. So it's like, well, then men's vote is worth less, because not that all men are going to be sent to the foxholes or the front lines, obviously not, but any man could be. And so, the way I look, in my personal opinion, I think that we should go back to a one vote per household system.
Yes.
Like families should get one vote. And the reason is because I think people who are single are not invested in the future. They're not invested in their legacy or their children, right? So, like, that means not only is it the case that women right now are allowed to vote in their own best interests, and they don't have to worry about what the potential consequences are, because if they go to war, they're not going to get, drafted. They're not going to be asked to come in or any of that. So if we go to and I mean, obviously this isn't something that is, like, I don't know, feasible in the near future, probably not in my lifetime, but I think that the best way to set it up is if you are in a family and you I mean, it used to be that you had to own property. Again, would not work, because a lot of people live in apartments. So if we're gonna do it, let's just say one per household, one vote per household. The husband and wife, they decide, the husband goes and casts the ballot, but he's doing it for his family, and they're all invested in the future because they have kids and they have to think about that, right? So that is the best model, period. And if you're a bachelor or if you're a thought, you don't get the vote. That's it, right? If you're underage or if you're not invested in the future, you don't get the vote. And it's okay, because you're not going to vote with the interest of future generations in mind, because you don't plan on having kids.
Yeah, but then bachelors are still going to war.
No, I mean, we removed the draft, though. Like, we removed the draft. Get rid of that altogether. I'm saying have it set up like that, right?
Okay.
I mean, I guess we could. Like, I don't think that we should have a draft, but or selective service.
I actually think the Starship Troopers model is not bad.
No, I think it's great, but I don't think anyone is ready.
But you know what I think? Well, first of all, got to do some arm twisting, because it is the hour. I know that it happened really quickly, but we had a long digression into feeding the plants.
Little bit.
Yeah. So I do want to thank Randall O, who finally got his contribution through after, I think, 5 days of trying. I know that it's a bit of a thank you for keeping at it, Randall O. That's very appreciated. I saw you. I can see your progression and how much you tried to get it through using PayPal, and I really appreciate that you stuck with it and kept at it. So Randall O gave us $25. I think it deserves a big, good fanfare.
Oh, Jesus. That was the hardest $25 he probably ever earned, right?
Crap. No shitting. Yes, that was an effort. He was definitely pushing it up the PayPal mountain there until it just gave up and went through our credit card processor, which is a bit more inconvenient. So, but I really appreciated Randall O. And any of you out there who can help out, please do, because this is why the fundraiser is going slowly, which is scaring the crap out of me. And like I said, just make the effort, put the URL in, go through our credit card processor if you can't get it through PayPal. I know it's a pain in the ass. PayPal's easier, but they've decided to shit the bed this month for whatever reason. Whatever reason.
Yeah, it's probably loose buttholes from all the Pride stuff.
Yeah, or maybe it's all the diversity hires and the basic code is
ESG.
breaking.
The ESG is breaking it down.
The
by the way,
they're not feeding the plants, is what I think.
By the way,
they're not. the CO2 in their office buildings is too low, so the plants aren't helping giving them back oxygen. Okay, sorry, Brian.
No, I was just gonna say, Jojo is looking around. Give him pats, guys. Maybe put a little hand emoji to pat the dog. In the chat, because he likes pats. So, all right.
Okay, so I didn't finish my arm twister.
Yeah,
Thank
do it.
To Roland O. Please, guys, help us out. I am really thankful to everybody who does. This message is what gives me a sense of hope that we might actually pull through this.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we can keep doing this, even though, I mean, it seems modest, but think about it. This is now 10 years that we've been able to continue to keep this on the air. It's like, it's a Sisyphean task, no doubt. And it's also not an easy task. So I've seen messages from you guys who are like, oh yeah, I bounced 5 years ago because it was so depressing. Well, think about what it's like every day or every weekday, being in the trenches, dealing with this stuff, trying to process the fact that our society does not care about men, doesn't think it needs to care about men, and yet we keep coming here, we keep doing this, we keep presenting these issues because they cannot be allowed to disappear. The instant this disappears is the instant we don't have any hope. And I know that sounds like a really big statement, but the one thing our society is refusing to do is to give men proper recognition for the value that they bring to society by being men. Okay, I'm gonna go on a little bit of a digression. I recently watched a National Geographic special on crabs. You know, like organize our society along the lines of the lobster. You know, no, actually our society is organized along the lines of the crab. You know what crabs do? When they go through their molting cycle, they are soft and they're vulnerable to stingrays. So the hard shell crabs will form these little crab pyramids protecting the soft shell crabs. That's us. We center our societies on the vulnerable. Okay, we value the vulnerable. We want to put the vulnerable in the center of our little crab pyramid and make sure that they're taken care of and the stingrays can't get at them. And we don't acknowledge that as a society, that that's the way we organize ourselves, that we care about the vulnerable, that we center the vulnerable, that we take care of them. That's a big part of what makes us successful. But on the dark side of that is that we don't have as strong a recognition when the people we think are invulnerable need help and are themselves vulnerable and need to be protected and need to be recognized, or even just recognize that they're forming the hard shell around the vulnerable, and that hard shell around the vulnerable isn't oppression. And one thing about crabs is the male crabs are the ones that actually mount a defense against the stingrays. So they're the ones that are attempting to attack the stingray. They're not just, hiding the vulnerable. They're out there being aggressive to get rid of the threat. And this is true about crabs. It's true about stallions. It's true about wolves. It's probably true about buffalo because they're insane. The male animals are out there protecting the social group. That is the value that we bring.
And the thing with it's so easy to explain why crabs would behave in that way, right? To protect the soft shell crabs when they're just after they've molted, before their shells harden up. It's because it's a tit for tat relationship. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours when it's your turn to molt. That is all that is, right? If you don't participate in that game because you just can't be bothered, then nobody's going to climb up on top of you and protect you and form a pyramid over you. Nobody's going to do that, right? Because you didn't do it when you had the opportunity to, when you were strong enough to do that for somebody else, right? So it's like, this is not a difficult relationship to understand. And oddly enough, we wouldn't necessarily think that crabs have any kind of concept of the future, and maybe they don't. Maybe they don't. Maybe this is just a pre-programmed behavior, because if you don't do this, nobody's going to do it for you, and all of the crabs that didn't do it ended up dying, and all of the crabs that did do it ended up surviving.
Yeah. But when men are soft-shelled, we don't protect them.
No.
So when they actually gain that hard shell, like we're losing them to the stingrays, which means we're losing that energy of the willingness to go out and fight the stingrays, which means overall our society is being less and less and less and less. Like it's deteriorating. Our crab pyramid is deteriorating because we're not protecting the male crabs when they need it. And we're insisting on like the feminist and the traditionalist approach. What is the feminist approach? Well, if men have needs, they can't embrace stoicism to overcome them because that's insulting to women. So men can't they need to overcome their needs without ever recognizing they even have them in the feminist parlance, or without recognizing even and take responsibility for women's needs while admitting that they have no needs of their own. Like, this is ridiculous. It is stoicism on steroids.
Yeah, except for, why don't you ever talk about your feelings?
Yeah, except for, why don't you ever talk about, well, what feelings is he allowed to talk about? What can men cry about, feminists? What can they say? What problems can they say they have? Can they say to the woman saying, oh, you never talk about my feelings? Well, yeah, I feel like you're emasculating me through your nagging. Can they say that?
How about I feel like I haven't gotten a rub and tug in a long time? Can they say that?
That's not allowed because
No, not allowed. That's
Can they
entitlement.
say-
That's male entitlement.
Can they say I earn all of the money in the house? I don't know why I'm the one doing dishes.
Yeah, well, no, that's entitlement. I have super chows, and then we should probably, I don't know, get through another 20 seconds. So I got an anonymous donation for $5 without a comment. Thank you, whoever that is. If you meant to say something, you can type into the live chat and tag at Badger Livestreams, or if you're on Rumble, you can just tell me if that, what you wanted to say, and I'll read it out. Then I got $5 from Zeranx, and he says, if we're going to keep the pressure on men to get married to be able to vote, then government must be out of marriage and family. I agree with that. That's fine with me. It's an injustice to squeeze anyone for some potential to affect their life in their nation, but leave things as they are to fuck them. I will die on this hill. I mean, fair enough. I think that, like, there should still be a military, but it should be voluntary. So, the Star Trek Troopers thing is probably the best thing, but, we don't live in a society that is ready for that step. Basically, too many people are too dependent on the state at this stage, and they'll never go for it. Be Bad Sad gives us $25 and says, just switch to the site. I could never get my Patreon to connect to Discord. Thank you, Be Bad Sad. Are you saying that you couldn't get into Discord? Because if that's an issue, maybe we can help you with that. Let us know. Randall O gives us $5 and says, I can't take credit. I'm not the one that was trying to use PayPal. That was probably someone else with a similar name or something like that, I guess. I use credit card, Stripe, not PayPal. May tell the others to try that instead of PayPal. Well, if we have Stripe, then use it. I don't do any of that stuff. But yeah, there's probably multiple options. Maybe we should get a Cash App or I don't know. The Cash App guy died, so I don't know if that company's gonna be around. So, what was that?
There might be something that I don't know. Maybe there's something wrong with the fundraiser because I noticed someone tried to do Stripe and it failed. So, I'm not. I don't know. I know it's really frustrating, but we got to get through this, guys. So please help out. I don't want to hear this message disappear. And we need to keep this going because I'm pretty sure we're about it for people who are actually saying women need to take responsibility and men need to be cared about, and we need to recognize the unique value that men give just by existing. Like these male crabs, they don't do this thing. They don't protect the crab pyramid because the little lady at home is telling them, oh, if you don't, you're not going to get any. They just do it out of instinct. That's a lot of what men do. They just do out of instinct. And that's important to recognize because we got this idea, traditionalists have this idea that men are doing this because of insert fundamental value or principle. No, they're doing it because it's in them to do.
Yep.
And a lot of people go in and they say, well, these instincts that you have, we're the reason why they get fulfilled. And then they construct a gigantic edifice of bullshit around that when these instincts are just there, period. They're just there, like feminism. Oh, well, we're the reason that men care about women. No, you're not.
Yeah.
No, and you appropriating that is...
If anything, men care about women less now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Despite feminism. Well, anyway, so if we're
because of feminism.
Yeah, because of feminism, men care less.
Okay, so if we're going to be able to continue to have this, please help us out. It would take a real weight off my mind to just take the time to go to feedthebadger.com/support and put in what you can. Very much appreciated. We'll do some more arm twisting in a bit. Hopefully you guys will respond.
Okay, we're going to play some more.
Okay.
Do you think having women in the army would weaken our military?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then probably don't draft women into the army.
Yeah, but then take away the vote with it.
But you're not getting that. That doesn't seem very fair. You see what I'm saying?
No.
How does it not
seem fair? Who is it not fair to?
How about no?
Yeah, I mean, if you can't do it, then you shouldn't benefit. That's basically, it's not a conundrum. I know he acts like it's a conundrum. Oh, it's a paradox. Women should have this right. Oh, paradox. It's like, no, maybe they shouldn't because men are putting more at risk. Plain and simple.
If the only ones who can actually fulfill the role, right, that needs to be fulfilled to earn a specific privilege, right? And the reason women are excluded is because they're not capable of actually fulfilling the role and earning that privilege. Then it's not unfair. It's just basically, well, that's life, right?
That's life.
Not everybody is smart enough to be a doctor. I'm sorry.
Right.
Although the more I know about doctors, the more I wonder. But
rabbit hole alert. Let's go back to the video.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not gonna
okay.
go off
All
on
right.
another tangent.
Okay.
All right. I'd like to just point out something. This is all irrelevant. Oh, as I said in a previous episode, how to solve this conundrum is irrelevant. Even if your solution is, well, men just have to go to war because for no other reason than they're physically capable of it and women aren't. Of course, we can't say, well, women just have to give birth for no other reason than they're physically capable of it and, no one else can do it. I mean, even if your solution is, I guess we give everybody the vote, but men still have to go to war. Even if that's your solution, or even if that's the situation, which is what it is now, no matter what people think, our societies are going to send men to war if necessary. Look at the Ukraine. If they're facing an existential crisis, men are going to die to save their society. This is a reality. Then acknowledge the reality and have it inform your worldview. Okay? Acknowledge the reality of war. Go and watch realistic, and most of them aren't, but as close as you can get, realistic footage from the wars, world wars, and understand, look at those young men dying in liquefied shit, and let that percolate into your understanding of history and the world. Let that sink in. That men are expected to sacrifice everything when their society is facing an existential crisis. Let that sink in and let it start to move your attitudes about oppression and who is oppressed.
Most of them didn't have the vote and didn't have children.
Yeah.
Let that inform your worldview. And you know how that informs your worldview? It eradicates every trace of your belief that men constructed a society for their own benefit at the expense of women. And no, The rationale that it's men sending men to war doesn't cut it. You're saying, when you say men send men to war, that men enforce the worst gender role on other men, the worst. Use their power to enforce the worst gender role on other men. Well, that doesn't sound like men are constructing a society for their own benefit at the expense of women. It sounds that they're constructing, or they're making expectations, and they're using their power to enforce expectations on men so that men take the costs of society and women get the benefits. So let that inform your worldview. And don't give me this shit about, war is all cost, everybody. No. Look at the frickin' sex ratios after World War I and World War II. In Russia, there were like 72 men for every 100 women. Don't give me this bullshit about civilian deaths. 72 men for every 100 women. And even in Britain, it was something like 90 men for every 100 women. So don't give me this bullshit about how women die. They don't. And don't give me this bullshit about how women don't benefit. They do. The society that wins gets the spoils of war. The women that lose at least get to live. But the society that wins, the women win big. And American women won fucking huge from World War II. They won unbelievably from World War II. Because that is what set up the American dollar as the world reserve currency, which means that Americans can give people dollars, just dollars, in exchange for goods, and not have to give goods. Like, usually what happens is people will get money from another country because they expect to get goods in that currency. Americans don't have to do that.
Yeah.
America won big, and the real people who won big were American women. And also Western women, because they got stabilized economies and they can tie on to it. But American women are the most privileged goddamn women on the planet. And they are the ones who endlessly whine about having been oppressed throughout history. You got the spoils of war. You got the spoils of World War II. You got the big spoils. That's what you got. And you want to know who paid the bill? American men and Western men.
Aged 18 to 25. Mostly.
Yeah, the very men that you have contempt for. They were the ones. That was the group of men who paid the bill for your welfare, for your Medicaid, for your state-paid tampons. That's the new thing, right?
Yeah.
They paid the bill for all of that.
Okay.
So yes, women get the spoils of war. All right.
Yeah. Great Indoors gives us a super chat for $100 and says, the Great Stripe Test, taps Mike. Is this thing on? Looks like we're good. Thank you so much for that generous donation.
Nice.
All right. So let us continue with this.
Did you say, well, you guys are weaker. You guys are going to weaken our military.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't want you in the military. But because you're not in the military, you don't get the right to vote. It's a catch-22. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It is a catch-22, but
Actually, no, it's not, because you don't join the military, you don't have to die. So you're literally benefiting by not dying or being injured or something. Or just being forced forced to serve. You know, even if you're not at risk, you're just away from your family for 6 months or whatever.
But if there is a catch-22 in the sense of if you are not eligible for the draft, right? And that means that you can't have a vote, right? There is a catch-22. There's no way for you to actually get the vote. Well, okay. How about a baby draft?
Yeah,
How
right.
about that?
But they'll never go for that. That's the Handmaid's Tale.
I know. The Handmaid's Tale that has never existed at any point in history, right? Mm-hmm. Where the government said, okay, women, you have to produce at least 3 children or else.
Or you get shot by firing squad.
Yeah. Or run up a gibbet, right? Like, yeah, no, like there's never been a situation in which women were drafted into baby making, right? Well, we're below replacement levels all across the West, right? And birth rates in the rest of the world are also in decline. We're desperately importing people into our Western societies, stealing basically all kinds of talent and we're fomenting a brain drain of societies that are actually in need. I mean, 65% of med school graduates are women now. That's great. Yeah, except for now you have to poach doctors from like Nigeria and South Africa and Egypt and Afghanistan and Iran and all kinds of other places where those governments and those societies heavily invested in training doctors in order for those doctors to provide a return on that investment in those countries. So those taxpayers invested heavily so that they would end up getting doctors to look after their, I don't know, pregnant mothers and stuff. And no. In order to satisfy Western women's egos, that they get to be doctors, but they also get to take a year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe 5 years off to have babies. And then they'll come back part-time and only within office hours. No irregular hours, no overnighters in the ER. It just didn't make any sense for me to specialize, right? Okay, so we got like a massive doctor shortage here. What are we doing? We're stealing doctors from places with even more precarious access to healthcare, not just for women, not just for children, not just for men, for everybody. For everybody. Precarious access to healthcare in these countries. And we're like, hey, give us those doctors you paid to train, right? And maybe they'll send money back.
All right.
Some of it.
All right. So,
shall we continue, or do you still have?
Yeah, I
more?
just wanted to say that.
So maybe having 3 babies per
we
woman.
can't give those.
Yeah, third baby, you get your vote. How about that?
Yeah, that actually would be
Within an
really
intact
reasonable.
relationship.
Well, yeah,
no.
assuming that they don't just like
or if your family are net taxpayers. How about that?
right.
Okay.
If your family are net taxpayers and
Can you see how
you've had 3
societies
kids
that were in the past didn't truck with this shit? Like they didn't have the world reserve currency or be attached to it in order to just manage all of this.
Well, they had gold.
So they were just like, no, women, you're not going into these professions because we know what you're gonna do. We all know. Okay.
Yeah, Iran did that.
Yeah.
Iran did that. They banned women, like I guess it was about 10 years ago. Banned women from most STEM degrees because they were like, they just use it as part of their trousseau, as part of their bride chest.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you have an engineering degree as a woman, well, the men that are worthy of marrying you are at least an engineer, at least have a bachelor of engineering, if not a master's or a PhD, or have an even more prestigious degree and lucrative degree. And you can use your BSc in engineering as a bargaining chip when arranging a marriage. And that's all they're using it for, and they never plan on working in their field, right? It's an MRS degree. And so you can't, when you have a limited number of spaces in a school that's partially publicly funded, and you have a number of positions that need to be filled by skilled and educated workers, right? You're not going to be paying women who treat an education in this way you're not going to be subsidizing their education. You're not going to be allowing them to get that education. And I'm sorry, but the 1 out of or 2 out of 100 women who would actually choose to go into work as an engineer or as a chemist or whatever, right? Who would do that, who want to be independent and self-sufficient and have a career, right? The 1 or 2 out of 100 who aren't using it as just something to add to their trousseau to negotiate a better bride gift out of a more high status husband, right? Yeah, no, I'm sorry, but talk to your sisters, talk to your fellow women, and tell them to stop abusing this system, right? Or you're ruining it for everybody else.
Yeah, as simple as that. And I mean, somehow we managed this in the 80s, it feels like, because that was the highest participation of STEM for women.
Mm-hmm.
But something happened, and there was a well, I think the only gain that we've seen recently is probably in trans women.
Well, you know what happened in the 80s? Things went from clerical to abstracted, right? So, like, when it comes to like we were talking about last show, right? When it comes to data entry and clerical tasks and administrative tasks and just spotting typos and all of those types of things, doing basic mathematical calculations, right? Even complex mathematical calculations. They're very good at that, right? When it comes to like the imaginative, creative, Feynman kind of theoretical physics, all of those kinds of things, men tend to be better at those, right? That kind of thinking 5 levels up from the task being done today, right? And extrapolating, and that kind of big picture thinking where, like, that if you poke something over here, something's going to go fucky over there, way on the other side of it. And then you have to figure out why, because you intuitively know that thing on the other side of the big system is going to go fucky, but you're not 100% sure all the steps as to why it's going to break, right? Those are the things that's actually the highly risky work. Those are the things that men tend to excel at compared to women. So back when it was all punch cards and, typing, it was really very much a clerical and administrative type of work, in mathematics, in physics, in computer science, all of those things. Once it got beyond that into like this giant pile of spaghetti that, I mean, most people, if they even had the first clue of how their computers work, they'd be completely flabbergasted at how organic it basically looks like a rainforest with like vines crawling up trees and flowers blooming on top of funguses that are growing on the tree bark, and it's all very chaotic, very organic, and very difficult to conceptualize, to like hold it all at one time in your brain. And women aren't particularly good at that. Men are, and so that's why I think that men and trans women have, starting in the 80s, have really taken over the field. And
actually, I think honestly, it may not even be like, if you look at the outliers, I think a lot of the female outliers with the highest level of intelligence tend to group into mathematics. And mathematics used to be something that was more dominated, or not dominated, but had a higher degree of women in it.
yes,
And it wasn't that programming went from clerical to more abstract. It's that it went from more machine code to more object orientated, which is more abstract. But machine code, like, it is itself. It is you're dealing with almost more pure mathematics. And I'm not talking about the average woman here. I'm talking about the woman on the very tail end of the distribution.
Yeah.
The thing is that you can create messaging that appeals to women on the tail end of the distribution, but it's not going to appeal to average women.
No.
Right?
Not at all.
You could probably get that 35% female participation in STEM, but you got to respect the women who will go into it and what they want to hear. And if what will happen is the feminist messaging, I actually think demoralizes women.
Oh
on
yeah.
that.
Oh yeah. No,
Seriously demoralizes. So the marginalized, like the women who are less super autistic and are just gonna like plow forward through anything, that nothing's gonna really change them. They will go into mathematics. They'll go into that. But it's the ones that are just in the low end of that tail distribution. They can be influenced by the feminist messaging. Oh, you're a victim. Oh, you've got to constantly look in terms of what's being done to you and not what you do. You will influence those girls into learned helplessness.
Well, this is the thing too, because there was a website called interview.io, and all they did was basically they took in clients and basically put them through. These are people who are going into engineering, computer science, software development, whatever. They want careers in tech, right? And they would put them through mock interviews and then score them on their interviews. And women, they had like a really high attrition rate for women, right? Like, so women were just like, they'd do 2 interviews and then they'd fuck off. They'd be like, okay, screw this. I'm not doing this anymore. Right. And this was all just to prepare them for like going out and getting a job. Right. So they would give up the program. And so they were like, well, maybe there's some sexism going on. So they set up a study, right, where they modulated everybody's voice. Okay, all of the interviewees, they modulated their voices. Sometimes they modulated the women to sound like women, but obviously modulated, or like men, obviously modulated, or like the men to sound like men, or women, obviously modulated, right? So they modulated all the voices just to be sure. These are like sort of online things over Zoom where it's like, to write a script to do this, and you'd sit there and just do it and talk through it. And they found that women consistently, okay, or that the people who sounded like women, right, consistently scored slightly higher on their interviews than men did. The ones that sounded like men. But the men just kept at it. The women said, fuck it, I'm done. 2 bad interviews, 2 bad scores, and they were gone. Men persisted for 7 bad scores, right? They were still there trying, right? Now,
I'm trying to get better.
I posited, okay, well, why would this be? Right? Even if we're like going to ignore maybe temperamental differences between men and women, men more persistent, women, or maybe more egotistical, women more likely to give up and more emotionally sensitive and susceptible to negative emotion and criticism, right? All of those things. Even if we were to set that aside, what's the narrative right now? Women in tech are going to be discriminated against. So if you're a woman and you get 2 bad scores, what have you been told? Well, it's probably because you're a woman, and that's something you can't change. And so there's nothing you personally can do to get better. So
they're literally okay. Let me just get this out before I'm dealing with a whole bunch of stuff. There's technical issues going on at the blog, but I want to say this. All right, Feminism is destroying any capability that women have. They are literally destroying it. One of the symptoms of this is the way that they changed learning so that girls and boys both do worse than they do with the older form of teaching pedagogy.
Oh,
But
yeah.
do
That
better.
whole synthetic phonics versus whole language for reading. They used to use synthetic phonics, and girls did slightly better than boys, and then they started using whole language, and both girls and boys did worse, but boys did way more worse than the girls. So they were like, "This is great."
So they do something that makes girls do worse, but
Worse.
significantly better than boys, and that's what they go with.
Yeah.
And they're destroying women's capability. Like, the women today are destroyed by feminism. Their capability, their understanding, their ability to maintain relationships, to deal with people who act slightly not to the perfection of manners, that is all, like, seriously. If Jane Austen wrote a book or a romance about women today, the average woman today, basically there would be no romance, because she actually had to extend herself to understand where this guy was coming from before anything happened. Okay?
Yep.
And this seems to be impossible for many women to do now. But it's understandable, because feminism is pumping out this toxic learned helplessness into women. And feminism isn't just destroying women on the edge who are mathematically inclined. And I've heard women say, well, there was this guy who said that women can't do mathematics or whatsoever. Well, look at this. Yeah, that's one dude with an opinion. But feminism has constructed this entire framework to absolutely destroy women's psychological tools to pursue mathematics, to pursue STEM, to pursue any kind of risk-taking activity. Like, women may not be naturally as good at risk-taking, but they are better at it than they are now under feminism. So they've destroyed that. Relationships are an aspect of risk-taking. Opening yourself to understanding someone who is not you is a risk. And this has all been destroyed. Women have been dumbed down into the worst versions of themselves, the most restricted, the most helpless, the most risk-adverse, the most pathological, and the most anxiety-ridden. Thank you, feminism. And you know what? This was done to construct the perfect voting bloc for authoritarianism, in my opinion. Maybe it wasn't done intentionally, but that's what it constructs. Fearful women want powerful men to control them. And for some reason, it's not patriarchy if it's the government.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's true. Absolutely, that's true. Totally.
If it's your husband who's like, oh, I'm going to go to a bachelorette party, and your husband's like, where's it at? What's going to be on the roster, right? Like, are there going to be strippers there? Like, what's going on? Because, like, I don't know if I'm comfortable with this, right? And you're like, oh yeah, they're a pretty crazy bunch. Maybe I better. Now that I think of it, maybe it's not for me, right? If you do that, you're just like you're a doormat, and it's like, yeah, no, but I wouldn't let my husband. I would not be happy if my husband. I'm not going to say I wouldn't let him, but I wouldn't be happy if he went to a bachelor party in Las Vegas. Like, I can't stop him, but I wouldn't be pleased, right?
I never even thought about that. It'd definitely be interesting. I don't think he'd do it, but
yeah. Well, I mean, it's like that. It really boils down to this whole thing where if you are a woman who respects her partner's boundaries and wishes and standards, and also behaves in a cooperative manner. So, fills in the empty spots on his spreadsheet, right? Then you're like, you're just a slave. You're a subordinate female. You're an oppressed woman, right? But if he does the same for me, right, then he's a simp, right? He's a beta. And I'm just like, beta. And it's like, well, we do it for each other. We do those things we make compromises and we put in effort for each other. And, as long as we're both putting in effort, then like, I don't see how either one of us is subordinate. We're working as a team, right? I have strengths, he has strengths, and we join our strengths together and we're greater than the sum of our parts. That's how a partnership is supposed to work, isn't it? But apparently that means he's my doormat and I'm his doormat. So
I think I need a button for where you guys go just for too long. I think, Alison, you need to twist some arms, maybe. I don't know, because it's been like 40 minutes, so.
Yeah, I know. I should, but I don't know what's going on. Most everybody's going through feedthebadger.com/justthetip. They're not going to the fundraiser, so we haven't really moved aside from that 25 ducks, which is stressing the hell out of me. Thank you, guys. Anyway, if you would like to help us out and reduce my stress load so my heart doesn't explode, please go to feedthebadger.com/support and $5, $10. Tell me if you're having trouble and it's something on our end and you just can't get anything through. That would be greatly appreciated. But please help out, because, if we don't make that, we can't make this content. And we're not getting with it. What ESG score do you think this content is? That the correct acronym?
ESG,
ESG, yeah.
Or
we're not getting venture capital.
DEI.
The feds don't open up a vein and just give us, a steady
BlackRock's
stream.
not investing anytime soon.
Yeah, a steady stream of funds for this, even though they're busy completely destroying and undermining the last thing that encourages people to be productive, which is money. No, it's coming, I don't know how long it's going to take, but if you're just printing money and putting it out there and encouraging people to not have, like, the money that they're giving is dead money, basically. It doesn't encourage any productivity. It just floats people or corporations that aren't productive, except for diversity, I guess. But anyway, we don't get that. We 100% exist because you guys support us, and please support us, because I don't want to cease to exist. Okay, feedthebadger.com/support. Maybe we'll have to do some feminist whaling, which means I got to find it.
I don't have any of it, but I do have this when you guys go a little too off the rails.
I can't hear it.
I can't hear it either.
You can't hear it?
No.
Wait, hold on a second. Can the audience hear it? Well, I'll fix that later. That's weird. All right, let's play some more of this.
So what do we do about that?
Well, I'll tell you what I think we should do.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, it goes back to, I just think that you have to have some skin in the game. And so it's like, if we're voting for a commander-in-chief, right, that's the person that decides if we go to war or we don't go to war. And so it's easy to, again, I think that if you're going to vote, you should have the same responsibility as the men, and women don't want to do that. It's either we're equal or we're not equal.
Okay, well, just to be fair,
if we're really equal, have the same responsibility. But
all right, I'm just pausing it there for the banana. Let's see what Ethan says. I haven't heard this in a while.
Yeah.
Again, it's equality when it benefits us.
Well, but your logic doesn't even make sense. I mean, you're talking about, first of all, there hasn't been a draft in the United States in 50 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if
that doesn't matter, there could be.
Yeah,
there could be tomorrow.
Yeah, no, we don't have selective service in Canada, but a draft is just an act of parliament away.
Yeah.
Or
Karen,
an invocation of the Emergencies Act away.
Karen, all men in Canada are signed up. They just don't make it public at all.
Well, of course they're all signed up because they all have to like have a social insurance number.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, the real difference is that the U.S. just, I don't know, has this kind of.
Well, they tell you
where
about it.
They tell you about
that's it.
Every
Yeah.
other country, like every other Western country, just doesn't tell its men about it.
Yeah, I mean,
You're just gonna get a letter one day.
Ukraine drafted all the men that were of fighting age, right? Even men that were a little older had to go. It's literally like the battle for Helm's Deep.
Even the men who were transgender.
Yep. They didn't. All of a sudden, they knew what a man was and a woman.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, that was all gone. Just like Roe v. Wade. All of a sudden, we all know what a woman is now. So.
Yep.
All right.
If there was a draft, maybe we could have this conversation, but it just seems kind of silly. In 50 years, there hasn't been a mandatory draft. It just hasn't happened.
Mm-hmm.
See, now, Pearl, I would say Pearl should hold his feet to the fire on this and say that doesn't matter. The point is it's possible, and it would happen, even if they, like you said, even if they didn't have a draft or selective service, they could just pass it through Congress and it would just go. So, like, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. And you're saying, oh, well, we haven't had to do that for a while. That doesn't matter. It's still, it can be done.
Yeah, no, it's like I remember after 9/11, on 9/12, there were a lot of worried men in the U.S.
Of course there were. Of course there were.
Because it was just like, oh, fuck, are we going to be at war? And does that mean a draft? And you know what I always found the most interesting about a draft, right? Because when you talk about, drafting women or whatever, even for civic duties or whatever, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. Community service, stuff like that, right? When you talk about it and you realize that the argument only boils down to how dare we inconvenience women, well, part of the reason why I know this is because married men can be exempted from the draft. If you have a wife and children who will be inconvenienced, well, you have a loophole to get out of being drafted, the U.S. You might not want to take it because, I mean, like during World War II, a lot of men were like, shit, we're just coming out of the Great Depression and it's work, right? Thank God we're going to war. It's a paycheck.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's you look at that and it's like, oh, so if it annoys a woman, we'll actually exempt a man from being drafted. Yeah,
possibly, right? Anyway.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
One of the few ways out.
So, so why is it a big deal, I guess, about the selective service? Because there's not going to be another draft. You know what I mean? There's enough people in the army.
Oh yeah, no,
I don't
there's
think
never going to be another draft. No, there's
and
enough people in the army. Even though they've had like a 30% reduction in recruitment since they started all this fucking crap.
This guy does not live in reality. Like this is what too much modern comfort does. Yeah. Like you're just like, oh, war. That was primitive shit. That was 100 years ago. Like we're way more advanced. I'm smarter than everybody else that ever existed before. So there's no way we're going to war.
You know what?
What are you, a primate?
You know what I think we need to start calling Ethan?
What?
The greedy soft shell crab.
Yeah, he's
the one who never returns the favor.
This is like a highly concentrated amount of soy right here.
Yeah, no, he's so soft. He's so like jiggly. Like,
we're never gonna go to war.
If I poked him, my finger would go in like an inch and a half.
There's literally a war going on right fucking now. At least one. I'm sure there's plenty, like all over the world.
And they're talking nukes
Yeah, I know. And so it's like, oh my God, and Pearl does, I think at this point Pearl realizes that this is a trap, and that he doesn't have any intention of having like a reasonable discussion, no pun intended.
It's a trap.
And he's just gonna try and nail her on the draft. That's why, by the way, this whole section is basically the draft, it looks like, which is the "why are you defending men" question. That's like the question that he called this section of the interview, and it's all about the draft. And I think Pearl's kind of checking out, but the thing is you need to hold these fucking people's feet to the fire on this. You have to, because they will walk off, declare victory, and say, "Ha, we don't need to do anything for men. Fuck those people. We're gonna go to war. We're gonna send them, and women are gonna get the vote." By the way, that only benefits the state and like the politicians, because if there are fewer men voting against war because they're dead, then more women will vote in their own self-interest. So
this
women vote for war, and women. This is the thing: women vote for war. Period.
Yes, they do. And this is why you also have to go back through the history and know your shit, right? Like, just to give an example, when Cenk Uygur brought up female genital mutilation and circumcision, right?
Sure.
Well, I brought up circumcision. I was like, genital integrity for men, right? And he's like, oh, I find that, but female genital mutilation is totally different because it's designed to suppress women's sexuality. And I'm like, Maimonides, right? Jewish scholar, rabbi, historical, 400 or 500 years ago, basically said circumcision for men, for males, is a way of quieting the sexual organ and the sexual appetite. And J. Harvey Kellogg introduced and popularized circumcision in the U.S. as a way to prevent masturbation and sexual depravity in males, right? And he also, he recommended female genital modification, but that didn't really catch on, right? But basically, there's all kinds of historical details out there describing circumcision as a way of suppressing male sexuality, right? Male sexual pleasure. So don't give me this crap that female genital mutilation is different because it's there to suppress female sexuality and sexual pleasure.
Yeah. Plus, we're not doing that here. So
yeah, no, we're not.
No. All right. I'm gonna play more unless somebody else wanted to say something. Okay, I'm gonna play more.
She is going, we're gonna have autonomous robot fighters before there's a draft. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So why does it matter? I just don't see the point with the selective service thing.
I just think it's, again, like, women want all the rights without the responsibility.
What other ones?
If you don't think that there's going to be a draft, then equally do what the men do. Men are fined $300,000.
They don't have the option. They don't even have the option right now.
Right. So give them the option.
Okay, let's give them the option.
Make it equal. Not the option. It has to be mandatory.
I know, but you saying like women want the right to vote, but they don't want to enter in selective service, but it's not an option. So how do you know what all women want?
I don't know what all women want.
So then why are you saying things that are generalized all women?
I'm saying no.
What is this shit?
What?
Like, this is just bullshit. First of all, this is irrelevant. Like, she's like, well, what all women would, you have to solve this problem before we can recognize it's a problem. This is his argument.
Yeah, well,
you gotta solve this problem before you can recognize it's a problem. Or you can recognize that this particular problem and this particular bias against men actually affects men and should be put into the feminist formula, or the formula of who is oppressed, okay, or who is not benefited by society. Like, seriously.
Well,
this is all irrelevant.
What he's saying, okay, and this is hilarious. What he's saying is, so, like, do you know that all women want this? Like, why are you speaking for all women? She's not. She's speaking for herself, right?
She's been doing that since the whole conversation started.
Obviously, obviously not all women want to have to sign up for selective service. Pearl is one of them.
Yeah.
Pearl is like, I would give up my vote in order to not have to. If I had to sign up for selective service, to get the vote, I would choose to do neither vote nor sign up, right? Okay, that's her choice.
Mm-hmm.
She's not pretending to know what every woman wants. And when the fuck did all women have to be on board with being forced to do something become a thing, right? Every woman, we need to have a referendum of women. And if women don't agree to have to sign up for selective service in order to get the vote, then if it's not 100% unanimous, then we can't do that to them.
Well, it's funny. It's funny because Ethan believes that all women want the vote, but he's okay with that generalization.
I don't give a shit about
but
that.
I know, but I'm saying that's what he's saying. He said, "Well, women want the vote. They need the vote. They have a right to the vote. All of them." But as far as signing up for selective service, you can't make. I mean, do you know if all women want that? Like, he's playing games. He's a disingenuous actor.
Oh,
that's the
retarded.
point. Yeah, he's absolutely retarded. I'm sorry, he's totally retarded. Listen, Lindsay's laughing in the background.
He's literally like the 5-year-old kid with Down syndrome pointing and screaming at the adult.
This is gonna get
that they're
demonetized.
retarded.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It is.
Yeah.
I know.
Never go full retard.
All right. You heard that one. So it is, for some reason, the Kill Bill sound is the one I played before, but you guys can't hear it, so that's not working. Okay, let's listen to some more.
Okay, because I'm looking at the policies that have been pushed. I'm saying the policies are not, like, where are the feminists fighting for equality in this situation? Like,
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not that relevant, but also the no women in the army is kind of a byproduct of patriarchy. Because women are looked as
no women in the
military,
army. Women are 17% of the military.
Do we actually get to a point where they actually have anything worth discussing? Like, now
Alison,
he's blaming men for enforcing this on men.
Alison, Ethan has no interest in having an actual discussion. He is here to ruin Pearl's reputation. That's why this is a frustrating debate, but that's the point. He's not going to hear her out.
Women are not just 17% of the military. They changed the rules. Okay? They changed the rules. It used to be that in order to qualify for certain avenues of promotion, for certain ranks, right, you had to have frontline combat role experience, right? You had to earn your stripes, okay? Now, since women got in, because women aren't allowed in combat roles, right? And then they made a big stink about it that barred them from certain avenues of promotion in the military, certain ranks, right? Oh, they got rid of the rule. No combat duty necessary. You can advance just based on a logistical role stateside from a safe military base in like Virginia or something, where you're just like doing data entry. You could climb the ranks to like a major general or something, a lieutenant colonel or what have you, right? You can climb the ranks even though you have no combat experience. You've done no tour of duty under fire, right? That's what they did for women to make the military friendlier to women.
Okay, so
like this idea that women are not allowed in the military.
No, that's a lie.
Women are now allowed in combat roles.
Well, they lowered the standards so that women can join the military.
Yeah, and they still can't get in.
Yeah.
Women still can't qualify for combat roles. I don't know. I think they're like, the last I heard was there were 5 who were trying to get into a combat role, and they all flunked out, right? Even though the standards were lowered.
Mm-hmm.
So, they didn't have to do as many pull-ups and stuff, and didn't have to carry as big a rucksack. But you're looking at a situation where, and like, there was this Marine. She wasn't in a combat position, right? Full combat position, but she was kind of on the front lines, and she had to like do stuff, right?
Yeah.
Do highly vigorous stuff, GI Jane stuff,
Sure.
right? And she's like, I stopped getting my period, right? After 4 years of it, I got permanent bone loss, right? It literally broke my body. Women should not be doing this, right? And that wasn't about getting bombed or shot at, or
no,
that was
just the training.
Just the physical activity required, the level of physical activity required destroyed her body. And she was like, I was in the best shape of my life when I went in. And when I came out, I was broken. And this is not something that you should be making women do. They're just not capable of it.
Not built for it. It's almost like men and women are different. I mean,
it's almost like
that. Yeah. All right, let's play a little more.
Is that possible that it's men driving that policy and not so much women?
I didn't say women drove that policy. I said they don't try to make it equal. It's only equal when it benefits us.
There
Even
you
if nobody's
go.
being
See, that's a good one.
Well, yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, no, that's a good one.
But I mean, the fact that men might drive the policy, if he means that there's politicians and they're just making decisions about men's lives, and that's patriarchy, that's a lie, because women vote for those men.
If 70% of women, right, if they held a referendum tomorrow, right, and 51% of women voted for women to be draftable, right, then the policymakers wouldn't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
They would have to do it, right? But you're never going to get women on board with that because they have their cake and they're eating it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're getting fat too.
But here's the thing, okay? It doesn't matter who's making the policies. Essentially what he's saying this all in a framework. And that framework is that he alleges society is constructed by men for their own benefit at the expense of women. And now he's saying that men are using their power to enforce the worst gender role on men or sacrifice on men and absolve
privilege women. Yeah, and privilege women.
Not just that, but these men not only did that, but they gave women the privileges that they would not give other men if they had asked in the way that women did. Other men had to fight and die for their country before they got considered for the vote. Women didn't. And these men who enforced this role on men gave women the say in the state that they would have never have given men in the same circumstance.
Do you remember that panel discussion with the feminists and Mike Buchanan and I forget who else, might have been Neil Linden or something. Anyway, was one of these panel discussions. It was a screening of The Red Pill or something. And then they did a panel discussion afterwards. And this feminist woman, like Mike Buchanan said that, well, feminists have an erroneous belief. They have the foundation of feminist thought is that men constructed society to benefit men and oppress women. And yet here we have this gender justice gap where men serve 60% longer sentences than women. They're more likely to be convicted. They're more likely to be sentenced to prison time as opposed to community sentencing. And women, if men were treated like women, in the criminal justice system, 5 out of 6 men currently in UK prisons would not be there, right? And that's just a fact. And the feminist comes back and says, well, the majority of judges in the UK are men. And he says, thank you for proving my point, right? And she could not put the loop back like together, the circle of logic, right? If patriarchy is the system that operates in our society, dictates everything, and it is one that benefits men, privileges men at the expense of women, and yet the majority of the people who are maintaining these particular gender inequities are men, and those gender inequities privilege women, then your entire foundational premise is wrong. She couldn't get it. She was like completely stymied. And she was like, I don't understand what your point is. And I'm like, that's because you're fucking stupid. Like, I don't understand how you can't see it.
Because she cannot see beyond the idea that men are responsible, and they don't recognize how.
Well, yeah, no, but men are only responsible for the bad things. Men are only responsible for the bad things.
That's what I got.
Men are never responsible for the good things.
That's what I got a feminist on. I said, okay, so if women got the vote without even having to die in war. Let's not even talk about the draft. They didn't have to go and die in war, which every disenfranchised group of men had to do before they were considered for the vote. Yeah. If women got that, if they were the ones who got that, why didn't they use their power and influence to get the
to get rid of the draft?
Why didn't they use to get rid of the draft? Okay, or to
vote against war
and consistently and equitably apply the responsibilities of the state to the everybody in it. They didn't do that. Or alternatively, if they didn't have the power, these so-called patriarchs who construct society for the benefit of men at the expense of women constructed the biggest benefit for women at the expense of men.
Mm-hmm.
So which is it, feminists? Which is wrong? Either you're not using your power for good or for equality, or the patriarchy wants to benefit you at the expense of men, which is much more consistent with our evolutionarily evolved instincts.
Yep.
Okay.
With all of our evolved psychology. Totally fits.
Any thank yous, Alison, or should I keep going?
Yes, I finally have some thank yous. Thank you guys for starting.
Right. Well,
they're
probably just
slowly.
having a hard time.
It seems like PayPal is resolved somewhat, because I'm not seeing as many attempts.
Okay.
People are actually managing to get through PayPal. So if you are an absolutely insistent PayPal user, you can now go through PayPal. So there you go. Please go to feedthebadger.com/support and help us out. Make sure we can continue to do this content. All right, Zarinx gives us $50, so thank you, Zarinx.
Thank you very much. That's really nice. Thank you.
All right. Mangaka 92 gives us $5. Thank you, Mangaka 92. Very appreciated.
Okay.
Geekazoid gives us $10. Thank you, Geekazoid.
Let me see. I'm looking for something. Hold on. I'm looking for something. I'll just.
Excellent.
Okay.
There you go. Excellent.
Good basic. Good basic. Thank you.
Yeah, duty.
Go ahead.
MIT. I'm just going to use the first 3 letters of your email. Gives us $50. Thank you, MIT.
Oh.
Thank you. Come again.
Thank you. Come again.
Teflon Soul gives us $100. Thank you, Teflon Soul.
Ooh, you get a Nicolas Cage for that.
All right, so we are at 2,835 out of 4,690. So we still have about 1,800 to go, thereabouts.
All right.
1,855. We're getting there. Still a ways to go, guys. So if you got them, help us out. It's feedthebadger.com/support. And I see you got some new super chows.
I do.
Everything seems to be good for chow.
So, Super Chows. All right, Nova Fan gives us $10 and says, Leftist, war is bad and K. Also leftist, why don't men fight our battles? Sure is a mystery, LOL. Thank you. Anonymous person gives us $5 and says, didn't that military training make her sterile? Yeah, I think that's what Karen meant when she said she wasn't getting a period anymore. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
she was sterile. She had like massive bone loss.
It's a shame.
Early osteoporosis.
And this is shit you don't get back.
Yeah, no, it's really, you can put bone mass back on, but it takes a lot.
Oh, I'm talking about the sterility, but yeah.
Well, you can get that back as well, maybe,
right,
but
maybe.
you really have to work at it. You really have to change how you do things.
Usually a do gives us $50. Thank you.
Woo.
And says, please adapt and survive. Well, that's basically all we do. So, another anonymous person gave us $5 and says, if men were treated like women, they would have intact genitals and fair parental rights. True that. I would say, if I was on this podcast and Ethan were to ask me, I know he would never do it, but if I got lucky enough to get on there, I would say, how about we do this? Since we've been drafting men for 100 years, or had them available for the drafts, regardless of whether or not there was going to be a war, and we gave women the vote for nothing, why don't we reverse it for about 10 years? 4 years, one term, where men don't have to register and women do. Let's see how well things go. Let's see what the internet looks like.
Oh yeah. Let's look at how that goes over with the electorate.
I wouldn't want them to, us to go to war in that time because we would get our asses kicked.
Oh God, yeah.
But yeah, so there is that. And the other thing is too is that somebody was saying that because Ethan's lineage goes to Israel, and they were like, well, in Israel they have like female soldiers, and I was like, yes, but I think that in every country where they show you, like North Korea, I think Cuba and Gaddafi's, like they'll be like, here are my female elite soldiers, and it's like these really attractive women in uniforms with rifles. They don't do any fighting. They're there for the photo ops. That's it. They're literally using gynocentrism to sell themselves as better people. They don't fight. Look at Gal Gadot. Do you think that she's like seen like a frag grenade? No, like she's gorgeous. They're not gonna do that. So let's not with the female soldier myth. That shit's for G.I. Joe and the Baroness. Okay.
There are, well, I mean, they did actually try in Israel. Right, just like they tried to do the military, like they tried the kibbutzes, right, which everything's gender neutral, didn't work.
Right.
They found not only did and it was actually like G.I. Jane, right? I don't know if you saw that movie, but it was actually like that. It wasn't just that the women couldn't cut it in general, right? But even the ones who could cut it disrupted the camaraderie between the men. They disrupted the bond, the band of brothers kind of bond within the unit, and the men were willing to in order to not see their female comrade tortured. Right, we're willing to give up secrets. We're willing to give up information, and so it's just like, and okay, it's not necessarily the women, it's the men. Well, isn't that what women want? It's like that stupid woman. She actually had the courage to go on Jesse Waters on Fox the other night, and that might have been last night. Who did the TikTok going? Where she asked, like, why can't I find a man who's conservative who's not a conservative?
Yeah, I know
right?
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, really? Okay. Yeah, no.
Isn't that literally what is expected of men today anyway, is for them to be like traditional, but like have like share the values of the women that want the traditional men?
Oh, the whole thing with the I want a liberal man who behaves conservatively.
Yes.
I want a man who's going to be loyal.
Yep.
He's going to be faithful. He's going to pay for everything. Okay. And he's going to let me do whatever the fuck I want.
Yep.
There you go.
That's it. And I mean, I'm saying that's not
in a nutshell.
That woman, that TikTok woman, is not unique. That's like a lot of women.
No,
if not most women. Yes. So, but anyway, let's play some more.
Actually drafted.
I mean, 50 years isn't, that long of. I mean, who's to say? You don't know, but okay.
50 years. I mean, the last mandatory draft was like during Vietnam, wasn't it?
Do you not think it should be equal? So you think that it shouldn't be?
No, I think what you're saying is fair, but it's not making any sense. Like, okay, sure, let's put women into selective service. Fine. I'm fine with that. I think it's fine.
Okay, just pausing for the banana. I'll play some more. I mean, he can't really, like, he can't make an argument. He can't even there's no defense, right? This is like the thing. He thought this was a layup. He was like, "Oh, I'll just get," because like, can you imagine taking the vote away from women? Can you imagine? I'm just gonna throw that at her and she's gonna crumple. And it's like, no, actually, when you look at it, like, it's not that simple. And he's like, well, I guess I'm just gonna have to say that we should draft women. So.
Okay. I think everyone should sign up for it. And there's other ways that people can support the military other than being on the front line, right?
Yes.
Okay, then why didn't we start with that?
Yeah.
And again, this is all irrelevant because the big point is how does this phenomenon support or undermine your theory about reality, Ethan?
Yeah.
How we're going to solve this problem has nothing to do with whether or not we recognize there's a problem and say, now that we recognize that this is a problem, how are we going to allow the reality of this problem to inform our beliefs about reality? Okay?
Well,
this is all, again, he is framing this in such a way that you have to solve this problem before I will recognize it as a problem. That's bullshit. You see, like, this is the meta. This is the bad faith meta. Any problem she brings up, she has to solve before he will recognize it as an argument against his belief system. That's what I'm getting. Okay, so if
she also has
men don't.
Go ahead.
If Pearl says men don't get custody, he'd be like, well, how are you going to solve the issue of men not getting custody, Pearl? I mean, you can't bring that up as a problem that should inform my worldview until you've solved that problem. What the fuck is this? What is this argument? Does it have a name? Because I've seen it so many fucking times. It's like, no, I don't have to solve this problem, feminists. You have to recognize it exists and is an argument against your worldview. And I swear to fuck, like I'm currently discussing something with the person who spent $50 through, and I'm saying that yes, we reach out to people who are interested. This is why he said adapt and survive, because he's saying that we're not doing enough. We do reach out to people who are interested in talking to us. Not a lot of people. We do shorter form content. I did a whole bunch of it last year. Got like the largest amount of views I have ever gotten, plus an additional 8,000 subscribers to the main channel. Okay, so we did do that. I did it. I'm that's pretty significant for me. And I had to stop because I had to focus on my novel, which is another way that I'm trying to get people interested in these ideas and get some inspiration about caring about men out there. And honestly, if you think that you don't have to stop doing a YouTube channel in order to work on a novel, read some novels by YouTubers. Like just go and look at the novels that YouTubers put out. Okay? You have to make a choice. You have to turn off the critical brain and turn on the creative brain. Otherwise, what you end up putting out is unique, shall we say. Unique. And I mean that about not just the woke YouTubers, but the anti-woke YouTubers too. So anyway, we are doing these things. The problem is that what we talk about is not going to make a hell of a lot of headway until our society is facing an existential crisis. We can continue to throw empty money at the problem for now. Okay? It's only when we are facing the lions that people are going to be like, oh, wait, maybe there's a worth, maybe men have a value.
Maybe we shouldn't have killed all our guard dogs and soldiers.
Maybe we shouldn't have killed all our male crabs.
Yeah.
You know, like, maybe we shouldn't have done that. But when that happens, there needs to be people who can correctly identify what's happened. Because you know what's going to happen? We're going to come to the point where every man is demotivated, every man is turned away, or a critical mass of them, and they're going to do what? Oh, geez, men really failed Western civilization.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no.
Men really failed. Meanwhile, Genghis Khan has gathered up all the demotivated men and said, oh, wow, this is a really militarily useful group of people, men with nothing to lose. You know, and everybody else is like, well, why did the men do this? Because you chased them off. Yep.
Because you basically,
needs to be
like the thing too is, right, like somebody was saying on Twitter today that, you know, like boys in the UK, right, white boys in particular, are the lowest achieving in school right now. And I was like, well, of course they are, because number one, there's no government programs out there to help give them a little extra help. And number two, they've been bombarded with propaganda that says whenever they achieve, they are cheating someone else out of an opportunity. They're stealing somebody else's opportunity, someone who deserves it more. And if you demoralize the majority of your men and future men in that way, right? Like you're just, this is a recipe for disaster. And it's insane. Like, this is why the affirmative action ruling that came down from SCOTUS, was it yesterday?
Yep.
Was so welcome. Because it's like, yeah, no. Number one, if you're building bridges or nuclear power plants, right, you probably want to hire based on a meritocracy, and you probably want that meritocracy to be based on who got the best grades in nuclear physics at school, okay, at their university, right? That's just the bottom line. And if that just happens to be mostly white and Asian males, right, that's who you hire, because these are world level systems that are highly critical, where if someone fucks up, people die, right? That's just how it is. And so, like, the whole idea of, you know, oh yeah, no, and black people, they don't want to go to Muslim doctors or Egyptian doctors or Chinese doctors or white doctors or Malaysian doctors or white South African doctors or doctors from any one of these Middle Eastern countries that we're poaching doctors from. They need to go to a black doctor. Otherwise, they're just going to have bad health because they're not going to trust those doctors' advice, right? Who's racist in this picture? Because all of my doctors are like, we got a hematologist who's Bangladeshi. We have an allergist who's Nigerian. These are the first generation people. We have a family doctor who's Afghan. We have an internist who's Indian. And we have a cardiologist who's white. And you know what? It took me a long time to find doctors that I liked. And I like them. right?
Yeah,
They're not
sure.
full of shit. They're
Well-
not full of shit. They have good bedside manner.
Yeah.
They care. They're knowledgeable, right? And so I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, like, why the fuck do we have to have like perfect representation of black doctors to black population?
Well, we don't, and obviously that's a lie. And we want the best people. Period. I don't care what they look like. But this is what. Well, anyway, look, we're getting into the weeds. But all I will say is that SCOTUS made the right call. Obviously, meritocracy rules. Period. So let's get back to the video and play some more.
So, what other rights do women want? You know what I mean? That are contradictory.
Okay, women want the right to not be a mother, but men don't have the right to not be a father.
There you go. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful way to put it.
Well, he's gonna shoot that down. Or try to.
Women can have a, which I know it varies state. I'm in the UK, so I forget. Sometimes the US is different by state, but like in the UK, abortion's free up to 6 months, but a man can't opt out of child support. So it's like, why does he have the right to not be a father, but women don't? Or why do women have the right to not be mothers, but men don't have the right to not be fathers? I don't think that's fair or equal.
Sorry, just to go back for a sec. So feminists actually do. They want the draft abolished. So their point is, let's not sign up for the service.
Feminists don't want the draft abolished. Certain feminist organizations want the draft abolished, but it's not their top priority.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if they really wanted it, it would be done. It would be done. They're just paying lip service. Look, we care about equality. Look, we want the draft abolished. Well, how much effort are you guys putting into it? Well, we're getting to it.
They wrote one amicus brief. Never brought a single fucking lawsuit.
Yeah, the only person that was actually trying to get something done about that was Mark Angelucci. That was the person. He was the guy. Well, there's probably other guys. Yeah. But he was the main guy. That's an MRA, by the way. So.
Yeah. R.I.P.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Mark. F's in the chat for Mark. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's abolish the draft altogether. So they are fighting for equality. They are against the draft. There should be no draft. So men and women shouldn't be drafted. That is also equality, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, why don't we have women have like 150 years of the draft?
See, this is another place where Pearl should have been like, they're not. They may say it, but they're not doing it, because if they were doing it would be done. It would be done, and they wouldn't be complaining when MRAs are trying to do it too.
Yeah.
So they would at least like get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So you accept the premise is wrong on that?
I don't. I mean, it's still not equal the way it is. But yeah, what they're saying.
No, it's not equal the way it is. Sure, and feminists agree. Feminists agree with you.
Oh, okay. I've never heard him talk about that. But
do you listen to a lot of feminist ideology? Do you read books? Do you listen to lectures? How do you listen to a lot of that stuff?
So I talk to feminists all the time.
Right. I haven't seen you talk to an actual scholar once. You just talk to kind of random women.
Oh, why aren't you listening to the experts? Don't you know the experts are the people you're supposed to talk to? Not the regular bedroom feminists?
Rank and file feminists, coffee shop feminists.
They have to be the experts. Kind of like the science. You have to listen to the experts. Listen to the science.
No, he vacillates back and forth between feminists and women. Right?
Yeah. Well, that's
as if they're
tactic.
Both the same. And there's such a thing as an expert woman, and that woman is a scholarly feminist or a political feminist.
Yeah.
Who leads a feminist organization and sets the agenda for that organization, right? And that is who is speaking for all women. And no, I'm here to tell you that's not the case.
Here's the thing. What is the difference? If I would ask him this, what's the difference between a scholar feminist, like an expert feminist, and a feminist that was educated in like college on feminism? Because those
Gender
feminists,
studies,
but the feminists that graduated from college learned from experts. So what is the difference? Are you saying the experts didn't teach their students very well? But what this is what he's really saying, okay? This is what he's really saying. This is the truth, okay? If she was listening to a scholar or talking to a scholar. She would be speaking to someone who is really good at manipulating language to make themselves sound smart. That's the only difference. It's like, do you talk to actual black people, or do you talk to Michael Eric Dyson, who is just really good at, like, you know, crafting a narrative of white supremacy? But it's the same
in the style of an evangelical preacher,
right.
a Baptist pastor.
But it's the same lie. It doesn't matter how nice you make it. You know, it doesn't matter how much nuance you sprinkle on. It's the same lie, and that's the thing. Like, when this guy makes an appeal to authority, because that's what he's doing, that is wrong. That is a fallacy. Pearl is right, but she's not pushing back enough, in my opinion. But, you know, maybe she's not really made for this kind of really aggressive debate, because she probably doesn't think he's being really aggressive, but he is. He's being really aggressive. Okay.
Yeah. No. When the Mormons show up at my door, right? They're generally like 18 to 25 years old, well-dressed, polite young men, and but they're not church leaders. They're not. Right? So am I supposed to basically say, well, I'm not going to listen to anything you have to say. I'll only talk to the supreme head of your church. I'll only talk to your version of the Pope. Right? No.
Yeah.
No. Like, you are here to give me a message. I'm not particularly interested in the message. I'll be polite and I'll be kind to you because you're polite and you're kind to me, and I have no problems with religious people. But yeah, no, I'm not joining your religion tomorrow either, right? But it's like when you look at this whole, like, he literally is just vacillating back and forth between, well, do you think 100% of women would agree that they should be draftable?
Yeah.
Right. And then why aren't you talking to the handful of scholarly feminists that I cherry picked who published an opinion about, you know, how the draft should be abolished for everybody, right? Yeah, but then didn't do anything beyond that. Like, I'm sorry, but, and it really is this idea that, God, who the fuck was it? Who was it? I forget who it was. Who went around and he was doing, like, on the street interviews with, this is years and years ago, with feminists in the UK, young feminists on campus, and asking them, like, you know, why are you a feminist? And this one woman, she was just like, well, you know, I thought that everything was fine, everything was equal and everything, but then I took a women's studies course and I started to see the oppression.
Yeah.
I started to see it everywhere.
Yeah.
And yeah,
of course.
And I'm like, well, yeah, but it's like what they feed these, because the students, those are the foot soldiers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? They're not the generals. Right? The generals know exactly what they're doing. We'll write an amicus brief in support of this lawsuit to make selective service mandatory for women or strike down the draft. We'll write an amicus brief to support that. But we're not going to bring our own lawsuit. We're not going to demand that women be included in the draft.
Yeah.
We're not going to demand that it be abolished because it's sexist. We're not going to do any of those things, right? We have bigger fish to fry, like fighting these shared custody bills in these various states. We need to get rid of those. Those are the things we're going to invest our money and our time and our effort and our lawyers into. And that's just how things, and also programming a bunch of new automatons and a bunch of new NPC foot soldiers.
Yep. It's the feminist students are a part of what's called the outer school where they just want to belong, and so they will regurgitate the talking points that people from the inner school will tell them, which are the feminist academics and quote unquote experts. So what the outer school says, they may not have like a complete grasp on it, but they are saying what they're told to say, and so the experts are telling it's the same arguments, right? But the people who really know what's going on are, they're the inner circle. I know it sounds culty, but it is a cult, guys. It is a cult. So,
well, they're the academically and politically connected people.
Yes, the people, the inner circle, right? The people who are like, we need to use this ideology to do these things, right? We don't care like about any of the collateral damage, whatever. So, and people who want to belong are ripe for the picking. The people who just want to feel like they belong. That's how you get Antifa. That's how you get these feminist students, these girls that and boys that are scared for all women, and the boys that are scared of themselves on that they might affect other women, or that all their men friends are the enemy. That's where that comes from. It's
all the protesters, right? Like, I mean, just go back to Steve Brulé's video that he did at the Warren Farrell protest.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right, yeah, sure.
Where the young woman said, that woman said, "You're a fucking scum."
Yeah.
But but there was a woman, an Asian woman there, who said,
I remember.
I'm here as part of my women's studies program. Because there's they actually give award credits for activism.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's right. They do that here too.
There's an activist component to these courses. They are not looking to just educate people. They're learning. They're looking to activate people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And turn them into the people who are going to go on the slut walks and the BLM protests and join Antifa and do all of those things and be the foot soldiers, the brown shirts for their particular political ideology, the useful idiots.
Yep.
And in order to be a useful idiot, they have to keep you an idiot. They have to tell you just enough to make you dangerous and angry and motivated, but not enough to make you really understand and really educate you in the issues.
Yep. Dumb enough to keep you useful, smart enough to do their work. I got a super chat from Zeranx for $5 and says, just want to note that Pearl has Karen's look, that famous image on her face in that freeze frame. Oh, that was from earlier. Yeah, it was the skeptical, one eyebrow up, one eyebrow down expression. But all right, let's continue a bit.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's fair to say.
You see that smile? Did you see that? That's him saying, "I got you." Right? That's his duper's delight.
Really? What did he get her on?
He got her to admit that feminists are fighting to get the draft removed. Therefore, your complaints are meaningless.
That's where it's
her original complaint. What is her original complaint? The original discussion was, are feminists correct about society, right? Yeah. That's what they're debating, okay? The fact that feminists are allegedly getting rid of the draft,
trying to.
That's or
kind of in a half-ass way. Yeah.
In a half-ass way, unlike Angelina, or not Angelina.
Mark
Angelucci, who was fighting to get the draft equal, okay? That doesn't matter.
Abolished. Yeah.
Because the real test of whether or not you acknowledge a problem is whether or not you allow it to inform your worldview. Not whether or not a splinter group is dealing with the problem. Are you letting this inform how you see the past and how you see the future? Okay? That's more critical in this instance. Well, it's also critical to get the problem solved. But it's critical to allow that problem to inform your worldview. And this is a debate. This isn't how do we solve the problem of the draft. This is feminism right?
Yeah, are feminists actually
conjecture about reality correct? And the answer is, look at the draft. Look at the expectations placed on men before they were even considered for the vote. Look at how men treat men when it comes to the vote versus how men treat women. And you cannot say that men construct a society for the benefit of women at the expense, or the benefit of men at the expense of women, if you acknowledge the draft. Like, that is 100% the end to the feminist conjecture.
Yep.
If you recognize what the draft is and what it was throughout history, you can't be a feminist. Period. If you truly understand, if you truly understand the social pressures around the draft, you can't be a feminist.
You should actually. I think every single listener should. What was that movie called, honey? 1918.
1917. That was like shot in one. It was a World War I movie that was shot with one shot or whatever.
It was
1917. It's great.
17. Yeah. No, it's an amazing movie. It wasn't shot in one shot.
Go ahead.
There is one point where the guy gets he gets exploded basically, and gets knocked out, and the screen goes black for a minute, and I'm guessing that's when they took a break. So I think they did it in two scenes, right? But yeah, no, it was.
Well, not really, because there are ways to work around it. Because I've done that with other movies where it looks like it's one tracking shot, but there are moments where they like kind of clip things together.
Yeah, you pass by a tree.
Stuff like that.
Stuff like that. Yeah, but it's so raw. It's
good.
So and that is and that's World War One. There were 15-year-old boys who were soldiers in that war.
Yep.
15. Right? So 15-year-old British boys lied about their age to join the military, right? Because they were protecting their mothers and their sisters and their future wife, their society, right? All of that. Right? We never had that kind of pressure in the United States, right? In terms of mobilizing, because the British didn't need a draft in World War I. They didn't actually do a draft because there was enough existential threat to their country, to their homeland. The war was right on their doorstep. Their cities were being bombed, right? That the men took it upon themselves. The U.S. was like completely divorced from this. It was like, okay, Pearl Harbor. Well, that's way over there in Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
It's there was no reason for the U.S. to get involved in World War I other than to support the British allies, right?
Yeah.
And so you're looking at a situation where Canada and the U.S. had to have a draft for World War I because there wasn't that instinct on the part of all these men to volunteer because war was not on our doorstep. It was not being waged on our homelands.
Yeah.
Right? But for the Brits, for the French, right? For all of these people in Europe, where it was like, yeah, our countries are going to be completely decimated. We need to do something. Yeah, no, they didn't have to draft men. The men volunteered. And the boys also volunteered as young as 15.
Yeah. So we'll keep going a little bit more here.
Right. So when you say you talk to feminists, you just mean like random women off the street, not like a scholar.
That's say they're feminists.
Yeah, but but feminism
doesn't count.
It's like a.
It doesn't count.
Well, you said you know what feminists believe because you talk to a lot of feminists, but I'm talking about like.
No, I said I've never heard them bring it up. So.
Do you have?
I'm just pausing there for the banana.
He's really twitchy. He's really twitchy.
Well, that's just his nature, I think. He's just like that. I don't know if I don't think it's a tell. I think he's just got something going on with his brain.
No, I
interest in
think
talking to feminist scholars?
What was that?
I think he's on drugs.
Yeah, it's probably cocaine or something.
The hamster is readjusting itself.
Yeah, but okay, so he's saying like something about feminist scholars, that if she spoke to any, because you know they're super qualified to say the exact same thing that regular feminists off the street are saying.
Scholars who are more aware with like kind of what feminism.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
I think that would be good.
Send them to the UK.
But they're in the UK.
So,
Mhm.
what is it that what do they think is going to happen if she talks to feminist scholars?
Well, it's going to be the same, but he thinks that they're going to be better. They're going to be better at adding tons of nuance, Alison. You know that nuance is their weapon.
Yeah, that nuance, in my experience, is basically we've decided the conclusion. Now we're fitting the argument to the conclusion.
We're back rationalizing our way to like the argument.
In other words, nuance is another word for lie. But
Yeah.
What does he think she's going to get from feminist scholars? Like, all they do is say exactly the same shit, except about more and more rarefied things.
Yeah, but they also use words like heuristics and hermeneutics and problematization
and nuance
and standpoint theory and oh god, what was that one that Christy Winters used on me?
Premise. Feminists have not proven their fundamental premise.
No,
they have not proven their fundamental premise even to a civil law standard. In fact,
oh god, yeah, no, not even like balance of probabilities. Yeah,
not even balance of probabilities. In fact, it's multiply been disproven. It has no predictive value. It has one huge glaring error that they just don't want to acknowledge: the draft and its effect on society. And once you let that sink in, you can't be a feminist. You cannot be a feminist.
No, you can't because
you can't believe that society is constructed for men's benefit at the expense of women.
There is description or diagnosis, and then there is prescription or treatment, right? Okay, so you describe the condition, you make a diagnosis of what's the problem, right? And then you prescribe a course of treatment for it. Okay? Well, they've got the diagnosis wrong. That's why all their treatments backfire.
Mm-hmm.
All their prescriptions just result in, like, that's why the more modern a society you have, the more prosperous and modern and up-to-date a society is, the more gender segregated the workplace is, not less, right? And it's because they had a diagnosis that was completely fundamentally wrong, right? And then they based their course of treatment on that diagnosis, and then they're like, oh, geez, society's getting sicker, right? It's not fixing the problem. It's made the problem. Like, we identified a problem, and now the problem is worse than when we started treating the problem, right? It's because they got the diagnosis wrong, and that's
100%.
That's the fundamental thing. And you know, when you're looking at a situation where the diagnosis relies on portraying men as universally and consistently oppressive of women through all of history, and that is the primary or sole source of gender inequities, gender segregation in the workforce, gender aptitudes and preferences, you know, like the fact that women like baking and men maybe they prefer woodworking, whatever, right? If you're looking at that and you say that, well, if we eliminate all of the external pressures, So economic pressure to earn a living, whether that's as a single person or as a parent, a partner and a parent, right? If you eliminate all of the pressures in terms of you got to do what you have to do to survive, you eliminate all of the pressures in terms of, off of women, right? What you're going to get is women doing what they want. Like once you remove all the pressures, the only thing left to express is the biology.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry, but that's why you see this gender equality paradox in modern, first world societies, where we're more gender segregated in the workplace than, say, Iran or Afghanistan or certain parts of Africa, right? In terms of earnings, in terms of all kinds of things, right? We're looking at a situation where we've removed all of the pressures on women and basically allowed them to freely choose whatever they want. Whatever you want, you go, girl. And they're choosing. And you know what? They're not choosing STEM fields or computer science or working on oil rigs.
Well,
they're
they're
not choosing that.
They're choosing what they're interested in. That's all.
Yes. Like I remember Janet Bloomfield. She did a post
funny.
on
I was just talking about Janet Bloomfield today, but go on.
This young man, he was like 15 years old, and he basically built a nuclear reactor in his basement.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he won like this major, youth science award, right? And he came in second place. The first place winner was this young woman, 16, 17, something like that, right? And she built something almost as cool, right? And when they were being interviewed afterwards, he was like, "Yeah, no, I want to be a nuclear physicist. I want to design nuclear power plants, maybe even figure out cold fusion or hot fusion, work on the stellarator. That'd be so super cool, right?" And the girl, when she was asked, "Well, what do you plan on doing with your life?" and she wanted to be a beautician. And it's like, she's brilliant. She's a genius.
Yeah, but so what?
But that's not what she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to work on the stellarator, finding an almost limitless source of power by creating a sun on the surface of the earth, right? She wants to be a beautician.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to do hair and nails.
All right, let's keep going.
No, I actually tried for some, but then they'll be like, "You're a hateful woman." Da 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 da. There's one that's, I can't even remember, some blonde chick out here. Can't remember her name, but yeah, she didn't want to come on.
Blondes.
That sounds kind of sexist, doesn't it? Just kidding.
Or just descriptive.
Yeah, descriptive.
No, I'm just saying that was her. That's what she looked like. I don't know her name. I forget.
But my point is like when you just bring a random girl and they say, "Yeah, I'm a feminist," it's kind of like the Steven Crowder changed my mind versus like actually talking to someone who's involved in like the scholastics, the academia of what feminism means historically in modern day and previously. Mm-hmm. So the level of discourse you would have is obviously different.
No, it's not. It's just bigger words. That's all. It's the same. Yeah. It's the same argument.
Yeah, and if you're that bad at teaching your students, educating your minions, then like your ideology isn't worth shit, right? Mm-hmm. Like basically, when you look at a kid who's raised in a church, by the time he's 8, he's pretty much got all the concepts down.
Yep.
And
go ahead.
And it's like, okay. And then it's just like the nuanced stuff after that. And by the time they're 20 or 25, they've pretty much got those things down if you're actually like teaching them. Well, like if the acolytes of feminism, right, are not representative of the priests or priestesses of feminism and the set of beliefs, then you haven't done a very good job of...
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, if like essentially what he's saying is that the best thing that an academic feminist can teach to a student feminist off the street is that you should send everybody that challenges you to me, even though I'm literally teaching you the same shit, but I'm using $5 words. That's why I made the comparison to Michael Eric Dyson, who throws like I got this friend I went to high school with, this black guy, and he's all about like the Black Lives Matter bullshit, right? And I put out like true things that have happened in the news that, you know, change the narrative. I'll just break it wide open. Here's what, you know, here's this story, whatever. And he jumps in there and he tries to throw big ass words at me to make me seem stupid. And then he'll say, I don't have time to deal with your intellectually impotent, you know, and it's these big words. And I'm like, you're not saying anything, dude. I know you're not saying anything because you're not speaking in plain language, because you're trying to, it's like a fucking, you know, it's like when you fight, like, do you remember that one viral video? It was like a kind of like pit fight thing, and there was a crowd of people, and there were these two guys that were about to face off. It's kind of an old video. And this one guy is doing capoeira flips and spin kicks and shit in the air and all these acrobatics. He does a handstand at one point and all this, and the other guy's just watching. And then when they start the match, the dude comes at him with like a fucking cartwheel, and the dude just punches him once and knocks him out. That is literally the conversation. All of this flourish and bullshit doesn't mean anything if you're saying stupid shit at the end of the day. You can make something stupid sound smart, but it's still stupid. So, you know, this is like why I think this appeal to, oh, you should speak to an expert. Oh, you mean like Dr. Fauci? Like, no. Yeah, well, how about you give me the best case? Like, if I was talking to him, I'd say, how come you can't make arguments? You're here to debate me. I'll tell you what I think. Tell me what you think. You know?
No, it's basically like Einstein said, is if you can't explain it plainly, right? Yeah. Then you don't understand it. Right?
Exactly.
So if you can't basically, it's the reason why the Explain Like I'm 5 subreddit exists, right? And I've heard it, explain like I'm 5, explain like I'm 10, explain like I'm 8, whatever, right? But if you can't explain it so that even somebody who's maybe just 10 years old can understand the basic premise, right? And can go, okay, yeah, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Then you don't understand the topic. But that's what useful idiots are for. They're not supposed to actually understand.
Well, yeah, you're supposed to dazzle them with your fucking vocabulary. That's all.
Yeah.
I even said to him, I was like, "Do you keep a thesaurus next to the computer, or are you actually coming up with this shit off the top of your head? Because I know what you're saying is really simple. You just really want me to think that it's complex." And then he ends his comments with things like, "You need to read a book," and I'm like, "Why?" Like, you basically read the works of other propagandists and you bought into it and you think you're a genius now. Come on.
Yeah.
If you can't explain it simply, it's not worth knowing.
Yeah, you're not saying anything.
Unless you're genuinely like an astrophysicist. Okay?
Well,
and you guys aren't. All of your perceptions boil down to society is constructed for the benefit of men at the expense of women. Constructed by men for the benefit of men at the expense of women. Okay.
You know, but even with like, you know, high level physics, you've got the Feynmans out there who can kind of explain it, right? In a way that like even lay people can understand. People who aren't necessarily mathematically inclined, they can explain things on the level of the audience. And, you know, he was a theoretical physicist, right? Which means he didn't do a whole lot of math. He just did a whole lot of thinking.
Yeah.
Right? And it's kind of like me, right? Because I just, half the time, all I'm doing is putting random shit together that I stumble across just by dumb luck, right?
Yeah.
And then I come up with an insight that's like, that somebody is like, oh my God, I never thought of that, right? But that makes total sense, like one of the experts, like Warren Farrell or whatever, right? And so it's like, but it's just because I have a particular set of gifts. One of them's being lazy, one of them is being unorganized, and one of them is being a voracious reader of not books. So I think the last actual full book I read was The Naked Bonobo.
We should move on.
I would recommend to everybody. The Naked Bonobo. Read it.
Anonymous gave us $5 in Super Chow and says, we exploit boys and men so hard that we mutilate their genitals during the first few hours of their existence so we can create cosmetics for shallow, wrinkled, vain women. Thank you for that. And I would have started with that myself on this discussion. I would have said, let's start with when boys are born. And then we got a $60 Super Chow. I think it's from another anonymous person. There's no name there. Or it just says $60. I assume that's a Super Chow. But thank you so much for that. And let me see. I will give you a thank you here.
Thank you. Come again.
All right.
Mhm.
That was just what was within reach. So, Alison, do you have anything? No,
not currently. No, I probably should do a bit more arm twisting. Or alternatively, I think we're gonna have to do some more tomorrow. Are you able to do anything tomorrow, Karen?
I can come on tomorrow. I have to go now, though.
All right.
Okay. Well, in that case, then let me do my final appeal. All right.
Final arm twist.
My final arm twist. Now, I know things are depressing, okay, and it seems like nothing can happen, and nothing can make things work. In other words, but here's the thing. We're not the ones who are going to be saved by society. If I'm right, and I could be completely wrong, what society needs is what we are capable of looking at and saying, which is men need to be cared for, women need to take responsibility. Okay? And if we do not do that, we will lose what we have gained. And you guys listening here, you are able to understand this. You are able to comprehend this. There's no lifeboat that's coming for us because we are the lifeboat. We are the ones who are going to be in the light and the darkness. Okay? We are the ones who understand something that normal people really struggle with, and I think feminists exploit. And when it comes time, I don't know when it will happen, but when it comes time that we are facing that existential crisis, when our particular form of kicking the can down the road stops working, they will need to understand what happened. And we are the ones who will be able to explain it. And that will form the basis of any kind of future worth having. So there is no one else but you to appeal to for this. There is no one else but you to fight for this. Nobody is coming to save you because you will be saving them. And if we aren't able to continue to say this message, and this is the unique message, I've never heard anyone else say this, that it is actually the people who understand men's issues, who can comprehend the idea that men aren't infinitely strong and infinitely responsible, and that there is something that women do in society that they need to take responsibility for, that it isn't us who is going to be saved, it is we who are going to save. We who are going to be the light in the darkness. Okay? There is nobody else. So if you think that there is somebody else that can help keep this alive and keep this going, and somebody else is going to save you, it's not going to come. But you can keep this this conversation going for when it becomes essential. And you can do that by making sure we can keep creating this content in the way that we do. Again, feedthebadger.com/support. What we have created are people capable of dealing with and enduring the weight of holding women responsible, caring about men, not focusing your life entirely on how to benefit women, but remembering that we need to be honorable. Like, men need to be honorable to each other. They need to be honest and honorable to each other, and they need to uplift each other. They need to not make excuses to cheat other men because, oh, I'm making a woman happy. That is exactly the wrong attitude, the attitude that we need to fight in our society. This idea that everything revolves around making women happy and not recognizing the needs, the long-term needs of everybody in society. Okay? You guys understand that. And whatever we're doing at HBR, we managed to create a critical mass of people who understand that. You want to keep that going, it's up to you. So go to feedthebadger.com/support and let's not let this die out. And like I said, I cannot tell you when this will happen. I can't tell you that somebody's going to save you. I can't tell you that the world's going to get better for you, because that's not what you're here for if you're listening to this. You're here to help others, to be strong for others, to recognize things that other people don't understand, and to help support us in continuing this work. So once again, feedthebadger.com/support. And I will hand it back to Brian. Thank you.
All right, so Jojo is here, kind of. He's Jojo. Go over there. Go over there. All right. So if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. Jojo's mooning us for some reason. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we have done today, what we discussed on the show. If you want to watch the full interview, it's about 3 hours and 20 minutes long, but Pearl leaves at about 2 hours and 20 minutes in, and I think probably Ethan just spends an hour like doing a victory dance. So yeah, just check out the link in the description. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of the Fundzerker, and we'll talk to you all in the next video. Hopefully, I don't know, tomorrow. See you later, everybody.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.